Approximately 2.7 million animals are adopted each year. We asked former president of the Little Guild, John Gunther, on how many animals he thought a year were euthanized.
I don't really know anything about how many are euthanized, but I imagine it's a number that would really make us sad.
We're facing a crisis in America's animal shelters because there are 100,000 more cats and dogs sitting in America's shelters right now compared to the same time last year.
So I'm the executive director of the Little Guild. I basically oversee all operations. I liaison with a 20-person board of directors, a 35-person advisory council. I manage the staff. And I take care of all the fundraising and financial oversights as well.
What are your thoughts about kill shelters? Do you think they're ethical? Why or why not?
I think they're unfortunate, but I do think it's the reality of the world. I think every person that gets into animal welfare has the best of intentions in trying to help animals, but the reality is they don't have the funding or the space to keep a lot of the animals. And so it is unfortunately a necessary function for some shelters, especially down south.
Yeah, and to your point, one thing that people might not be aware of is the difference between the sort of dog culture in, like, say, the Northeast versus the dog culture in the South. It's very different down there, and there is very little in the way of spaying and neutering. There's very little in the way of just, some of the conditions dogs are raised at and lived in down there versus up here would be considered completely unacceptable. So down there's just this sort of population explosion of dogs. I mean, I hear horror stories all the time.
Too often, problems that can be avoided lead to innocent animals being euthanized.
I can't imagine working in a kill shelter because I think it has to be so difficult because animals that you get to know, you get close to, are going to be euthanized just for space. This is something that happens. Unfortunately, we don't have to do that at the Little Guild, but we're able to keep them until we find a home for them. But yeah, the emotional part is really a challenge for anybody who works with animals.
Luckily, the Little Guild is a small shelter able to give individual attention to each animal.
The Little Guild has one of the highest save rates in the country. So we're over 99%. So we really try to do everything for a dog. So I have the luxury of having every dog can stay here until we find them a home, and they just don't have that luxury in kill shelters.
The difference in quality of life at kill and no-kill shelters often have to do with the amount of resources. Many of the quote-unquote kill shelters, which another term for that is open admission, where they take, anybody who shows up and they want to surrender an animal, their policy is they take them and then they will make room for them. But many of those are pounds, that they're operated by, cities and towns, and they don't have the resources many times to provide all the enrichment in terms of doing play groups and getting the animals out and spending time with them.
One touching story from Little Guild is about Pitbull.
There was one particular dog. It actually ended up being a local news story. Her name was Clementine. She was, oh my God, she was gorgeous. She was jet black, 100% black, Pitbull. She was all muscle, gorgeous, but so sweet. But very strong, very powerful, very athletic. We were having a hard time finding a home for her, and it wasn't because she was a bad dog. She just, the breed has a bad reputation. Believe it or not, dogs that are black can sometimes have a hard time getting homes. It was a few months into her stay, and we got a call from a girl from the area, from Georgia, who said that she was Clementine's original foster. And she gave them back to the shelter under the idea that she was finding a home. And then next thing you know, she finds her on Pet Finder, because a lot of our animals do also go on Pet Finder. And her and her friend happened to be in Georgia looking on Pet Finder. They see Clementine. And she was a little upset because she'd been led to believe that the dog had found a home when she'd actually been sent to us. We were able, through a lot of phone calls, we have an amazing volunteer named John Gunther who walks every dog every single day, including Christmas Day. He's here 7:20 in the morning. He walks every dog. He was able to drive Clementine from here back down to Georgia and reunite Clementine with her original foster.